Thank you for standing by and welcome to the Radiopharm Theranostics Investor Webinar and Q&A, which will focus on more background on the Pivalate technology as well as an overall company update. All participants are in a listen-only mode. There will be a presentation followed by Q&A based on questions submitted via email and live during the session. If you'd like to submit a question, please do so using the Q&A function within the Zoom app. On the webinar from Radiopharm Theranostics, we have Managing Director and CEO Riccardo Canevari. The presentation today will last for approximately 20 minutes with time for Q&A thereafter. So to begin, I'll hand it to Riccardo. Please go ahead.
Thanks a lot, Matthew, and thanks for having me and for everybody joining the webinar. It's really an opportunity to give an update on our most advanced technology as well as our pipeline. So here our disclaimer, and but let me start from the market. I mean, many of you are aware of radiopharmaceutical, and it is really a very important moment in the sector. There has been successes, there has been FDA approval, and many analysts are considering radiopharmaceutical potentially the fastest growing segment in oncology. Here we do have an example for imaging because it's what we are focusing today, where you can see at the bottom where you have quarterly sales, how currently approved imaging agent only in prostate cancer are growing significantly every quarter. And this is creating a lot of excitement because, as you can imagine, prostate cancer is one of the many disease area, but the similar unmet medical need can be in the majority of the other solid tumor. So there are very high expectations for company in the space that can deliver successful imaging agent, not only in prostate cancer, but also in the other solid tumor. And the therapeutic, of course, plays also a very important role where analysts' expectations are really in the billions of dollars in terms of yearly sales. So in this very positive space and in this very exciting environment is where Radiopharm Theranostics is playing his role. We really have the ambition to be a successful company in fighting cancer, leveraging the innovation of radiopharmaceutical. And we do believe that we are unique in the space. The team has very strong expertise in imaging and therapeutics. Our molecules are differentiated. So what does it mean? We are not going to play in the space where strong competition is present, but we are developing our molecule where other radiopharmaceutical companies are not present or have limited presence. And also from a business model, we are really investing all our money in clinical development, in R&D, with a very small internal structure. So our G&A costs are very small compared to our peers in the industry. So where are we focusing? We are focusing on 4 priorities. Pivalate is what we will discuss more in depth today. Vaccine is our imaging agent in pancreatic cancer. And then we have 2 therapeutics, 2 single domain monoclonal antibody targeting PD-L1 and HER2. So this is where the team is focusing investment and is focusing efforts to bring those to next step of clinical development. So we believe we made very important progresses in the recent times. Let me start, of course, from the focus of this webinar, that is Pivalate, our imaging from brain metastasis. You might remember that we reported positive phase 2A data in October 2022. And after that, we decided that it was the right opportunity to engage with the FDA. And we had a pre-IND meeting at the end of May, on the 26th of May. And I have to say that the team was extremely satisfied by the outcome. FDA didn't raise any red flag. On the opposite, they really were encouraging and telling us to go ahead and to submit in 60 to 70 days from the day of that meeting, an official IND approval for late stage development of Pivalate. So to bring this molecule to patients where there is a very high unmet medical need. But before we go into the details of Pivalate, I also like to take the opportunity to share the progresses of the rest of our priorities. Our imaging agent in pancreatic cancer received already IND approval for phase 1 in pancreatic cancer at the end of December. And you might have seen our press release also about the positive news of orphan drug designation received in May 2023. And this is important because potentially can accelerate the clinical development of this imaging agent. And beyond the two imaging technologies, we do have two therapeutic products that we want to bring as top priority in our portfolio. The first one, RAD204, is a single domain monoclonal antibody for patients with non-small cell lung cancer as a therapeutic agent. The trial will be performed in Australia. And the second product is a single domain monoclonal antibody for HER2 cancer. Usually, the most common are breast and gastroesophageal cancer. We already had a positive type A meeting with FDA about this compound in February 2023, and now we are proceeding to IND submission. So all these important regulatory steps are critical to go to the next step. So in less than 6 months from now, so by December, we expect to advance significantly all our priorities. For Pivalate, we will be in late stage development, and this is of course exciting news. For pancreatic cancer imaging, not only we plan to start the trial, but we believe that the enrollment will be very fast, and by December, we will have concluded and we will have a readout of the phase 1 in patients with pancreatic cancer. And the two therapeutic products will be in patient in Australia and in US, actively recruiting after ethics committee and IND approval. So I would say exciting progresses of what is happening, but let's now go more in details on the focus of our webinar, that is Pivalate. Pivalate is a small molecule that has been designed to image patients with brain metastasis. So a significant number of patients develop brain metastasis as a secondary tumor. And when this is happening, the unmet need is significantly higher because the metastases in the brain are much more difficult to be treated. So the phase 2A results were very positive. No doubt, we received a lot of feedback from key opinion leaders, and they were all consistent. And the reason is because F18 Pivalate in the PET scan was able to show high uptake independently if the primary tumor was melanoma, lung cancer, renal cancer, or lung. So these results it was very critical to give confidence about the opportunity to go to late stage development. And the presentation on the Congress was equally supported by very positive feedback. So based on those data is really when we decided to go ahead, we decided that these products deserve investment from Radiopharm Theranostic and deserve to go to late stage clinical development. So we decided to go ahead. I mentioned before the successful meeting with FDA, the positive feedback, no red flag. FDA said, please come back to us in around 60 to 70 days, no longer than that. We are happy to review your application for a late stage clinical development. And I'm also happy to share with you something that probably was not known because we didn't focus the communication on this aspect about the potential opportunity to develop also a therapeutic molecule. So the same very prestigious clinical center, Imperial College of London, the one that developed Pivalate for imaging, is now working and is now doing very important progresses to develop a therapeutic agent for brain metastasis and for glioma. This is something that is really exciting us. The process is still requiring some time, but considering that there are no radiopharmaceutical therapies in the area, this is something that is really engaging and exciting the team. But more news on this will follow, but I really thought it was an opportunity to share the positive progresses that we have on the therapeutic agent. But let's now go back to the imaging that is the center of our communication today. I mentioned the importance of brain metastasis. These are secondary brain tumor, poor prognosis. Usually patients with primary tumor like lung cancer, breast cancer, melanoma, kidney, and colorectal tend to develop metastasis in the brain. And the incidence is significant. Something not positive for the patient, of course, when you develop a brain metastasis. But somehow, if you want to find a positive element, is that brain metastases are growing because we have more effective primary therapies for the primary tumors. So patients with cancer are living longer. And for this reason, they also develop more secondary metastases. So the market not only is significant, is already close to 300,000 patients per year only in US, but is supposed to grow to around 400,000 new patients per year, again, US only. So it is a very big market, it is bigger than prostate, it is bigger than lung, and is growing significantly in the future. So where is the biggest unmet medical need? We did an external research from a company with a very strong capability in the field, and 3 unmet medical need area were above all the most important for Pivalate. These are patients that after surgery need additional treatment. After the brain metastasis has been removed, still you need to be sure that the surgery has been performed properly and there are no tumor cells left. In this case, an imaging agent as Pivalate under a PET scan machine can detect better than MRI, so better than current technology, if the surgery has been performed properly. The second biggest opportunity is in patient post-SRS, so patient post-stereotactic radiosurgery. Equally, after that procedure, oncologists want to be sure if that everything went well and that the SRS was able to kill the tumor cells and there were no tumor cells left behind. And finally, is about the recurrence. It's very difficult with current technology to understand if when the patient is coming back still has a brain metastasis or is just necrosis as a result of previous treatment. And this is the highest unmet medical need. So 3 very important areas where there are limitations of current technologies. And all the oncologists, neurosurgeons, imaging specialists that we have spoken with are telling this loud and clear. So what does it mean in terms of market opportunity? We were very pleased with an external, completely independent research, nothing that we influenced, nothing that we supported financially, was completely independent. What was the assessment of this important external analyst? Was that in US, with around 300,000 patients per year with brain metastasis, about 1/4 of them, 88,000, are considered eligible. So these are the patients that I mentioned before, post-surgery, post-SRS, to check recurrence. The average price that is assumed from a technology like Pivalate is going to be between $4,500 and $5,000 per dose, per single dose. So this is bringing the market opportunity for Pivalate in yearly sales of $364 million. Again, an independent search, and we were very pleased to see the critical opportunity and the significant opportunity that Pivalate imaging, and we're talking about the imaging only, can represent. But what about timing? So if this is the sales expectation or yearly sales of the expectation of the molecule, when is supposed to happen? Well, again, based on this independent research, it was considered that the late stage development will be with two parts, a phase to be part of the protocol where the patient will be assessed against biopsy, and the second different part of the protocol where the patient will be assessed against MRI. And this will bring to final phase 3 results in Q4 2025. Now, in RAD, with the management team, we did our own assessment, and we believe that we can achieve those timelines, but probably we can do even better, in particular in the last part of the trial, where number of patients that are going to be in the clinical trial can be recruited faster. So our assessment is that the phase 3 final results can be available in the second quarter of 2025. So if you think about that, radiotheranostics 2 years ago didn't exist. And in 2 years from now, we might have a phase 3 positive readout in a large disease area. 4 years from 0 to end of phase 3, actually something that I never heard. So I really want to take the opportunity to congratulate with the team in Radiopharm for their ability to execute and to execute fast. So that's really fast development in an exciting and high area of medical unmet need. So we are all very excited about this opportunity, and we will work hard to make it happen. But again, it's also for me today an opportunity to go beyond the exciting opportunity of Pivalate. As I mentioned before, very positive FDA feedback, possibility to go to late stage development, and final results from phase 3 trial in 2 years from today is something I would say amazing. But also we have more. We have our pancreatic imaging agent that is going to progress in clinics very fast. We expect the end of the phase 1 readout before December of this year, and 2 therapeutic in the clinic as well. So a lot is going to happen in the next 6 months. A lot of news flow is expected, but more important, a lot of progress has been made. And maybe some of those were not really visible because it takes time to do engagement with regulatory affairs agency. But now that we are going to be in the clinic with 4 programs, it will be much easier for us to keep the market informed of every single progress we are making. So in summary, 4 priority asset in 2023. Pivalate is our late stage development with very high market potential, but we do have additional 3 phase 1 starting very, very soon. We have an expected news flow that is going to be continuous and on time. And the 2 probably most important communication will be about when we can start the first patient in Pivalate for late stage development after IND approval, as well the phase 1 results in pancreatic imaging. And then we communicated to the market in the past our intention to list, to dual list on the NASDAQ. Australia is and will continue to be our core market, but we do believe that we can benefit from a higher exposure to US investor. Our listing on the NASDAQ is progressing very well. We have completed all the requested from the SEC, and now we are moving to the last step. This is a strategic project. We don't have to rush, and we want to be sure that we enter the US market at the right moment. So it can be in 2-3 months, like a little bit more. Again, what is important, it's a difficult market for small cap companies. It is difficult in Australia. It is difficult in US. So we want to be sure that we enter at the right time. And with this, I really want to take the opportunity not only to thank the team in Radiopharm Theranostic for the hard work and the strong progresses, but also to thank all the Radiopharm shareholders, because this has not been 2 easy years. The market is difficult. We are not convinced that the share price is really reflecting the company value, but despite that, we work hard to make execution happen, and the market, we are sure, will recognize the value of the products when they are in clinical development and when they develop milestone. And having 4 products in the clinic in the next few months, we believe is going to be an important inflection point. And with this, thank you again, and back to you, Matt. I'm happy to take any question from the webinar, and I hope I stayed in my time and that was not too long.
No, that was excellent, Riccardo. Thank you. As you mentioned, we'll now move on to the Q&A session. These questions are based on those sent through via email, and we'll take some live questions as well. So feel free to please type any questions you might have into the Q&A function within Zoom. Riccardo, the first question is, the Telix CEO has made several comments around important investment in supply chain infrastructure and it being a significant barrier to entry for others. To what ends are Radiopharm addressing the potential supply chain barrier for future products, or is it the intent that RAD will license their product out to partners with an established infrastructure?
Yeah, no, thank you. I think it's a very good question, and let me share my point of view here. There are fundamentally 2 different models. One model is called Centralized, where a company is doing production, supply chain, and distribution of the products to the hospital. And there is another model that is called Decentralized, where the company is leveraging third-party companies to do delivery to the hospital or the final stage of development and supply chain, like radiolabeling. Now, both are effective. There are just company decisions to go one direction to the other. We believe that in the stage where we are, where the amount of products that we do need now is for clinical development, so we are not talking about huge quantities, the decentralized model that we have in Radiopharm is very effective, because you don't need to build infrastructure and to spend money to do that. At the same time, I think that Telix is doing the right thing, because they are in the commercial stage, so they need much more volume. And at that stage is probably better to have a centralized model. So for us, it's a question of time. We don't need a centralized model now. We might need in 18 to 24 months, and we will assess both options properly. But thank you. It was a very good question.
Thanks, Riccardo. The next question is, and I can see it on this slide, but just with regards to cash runway and related to this, are you trying to do too many drugs / areas, was the other part of the question.
Yeah, look, the cash runaway is continue to be in line with expectation. As we mentioned already 6 to 9 months ago, we believe that we have enough cash to arrive to the end of 2023 or at the beginning of 2024, depending on how we adjust our spending. We are, I would say, very disciplined in keeping the focus on our investment on key programs and not doing anything that is not needed to advance on the clinical development. So I can confirm that we are in line with the spending is in line with budget and is in line with expectation.
Thanks, Riccardo. The next question is, have you discussed potential for accelerated approval pathways for Pivalate?
So as I mentioned, we have a very good meeting with FDA, and we discuss different options, and FDA was very proactive on that one. What was more important was to discuss the overall duration of the programs and how to get to that final stage. So FDA was really keen to see data with Pivalate when you have two so-called sources of truth. One is the biopsy and the other one is the MRI. For this reason, they ask us to prepare a protocol where you have two different stages of the clinical trial, where you compare with different aspects from a patient point of view. So technically, this is not called accelerated approval, because accelerated approval really works for therapeutic products where you deliver on a, let me call, surrogate endpoint, and then you are asked to do a second trial after approval that is called confirmatory trial. Now, this is not something that applies to imaging. For imaging, what is matter is really how to get to the final stage with somebody calls adaptive design, where you compare your products with two different sources of truth, in this case, biopsy and MRI. So the accelerated approval definition doesn't apply for an imaging agent.
Thanks, Riccardo. The next question is, are there any details that you can share about the expected design of the phase 3 trial and potential patient numbers?
Yeah, so we need to finalize the number, but in our current assessment, we believe that we probably need to recruit about 180 patients for our late stage clinical development. As I mentioned before, in some patients will be required to do a biopsy in addition to the PET scan. In other patients will be required to do an MRI, that is the current standard of care, in addition to the PET scan. We compare the size of this trial with imaging trial that has led to FDA approval, for example, the one in prostate cancer from Pivalate. We compare the size, we compare the duration, and we are in line with what other company has done in the past to get FDA approval. So 180 patients is at the moment our assessment, but the number can vary a little bit in the final protocol design, but seems to be in this range.
Great. The next question is, it was previously noted that Pivalate had other phase 2 trials in glioma, kidney, and other solid tumours around the time of IPO. Are these trials ongoing?
Yes, thank you for the question. And this might come from somebody that is saw and remember the presentation very well. So when we in-license this technology, Pivalate, we in-license from the Imperial College of London. And these phase 2 trials were ongoing. So these were trials not paid by us, but we had the, I would say, big opportunity to leverage those data and then to do a company-sponsored late-stage development trial. So the other trials are ongoing in the Imperial College of London, exactly as the question is saying. There is a trial in glioma a trial in renal cell, and a trial in different solid tumor. So the results from this phase 2A trial will be available to us, and it will be an opportunity when we see those data to potentially expand the future indication of Pivalate, leveraging this data. So they are progressing, they are ongoing, patients are recruiting, and data will be available to us. So potentially Pivalate will not be a single indication products, even if now we are focusing on brain mets, but there's the potential to have value for other tumor types, because the mechanism of action, that is fatty acid oxidation, is not only in brain mets, but is also in other solid tumors.
Thanks, Riccardo. The next question is, AVB6 or integrin had previously been given to 88 patients. In what context was this, and can this data be used to form the basis of the phase 1 trial?
Yeah, thank you. Also very good question. So we need to differentiate between what is called compassionate use versus clinical development after FDA rules. So RAD 301, or our alpha beta beta 6 integrin, has been already dosed in around 66 patients in Germany under compassionate use, and in 17 patients in an investigator-initiated trial where it was compared with FDG. And in about those 90 patients, always show very positive imaging quality, and the product showed to be extremely safe with no reported side effect. So what we have to do now, because these patients were not dosed under FDA condition, we need to replicate a small part of this data under an FDA IND phase 1. And in fact, in our IND approved protocol, FDA has asked us to do only 9 patients, exactly for the reason that there are so much evidence outside that is called real world evidence. So our phase 1 in 9 patients is expected to start in about 8 weeks from now. And we are positive in saying that we will have full recruitment in about 3 months. For this reason, we expect positive, because we already have so many data outside, positive phase 1 imaging data before December 2023 from our phase 1 trial under IND approval.
Thanks, Riccardo. The next question, is the late-stage Pivalate trial expected to be limited to specific indications? Do you anticipate potential for a broad FDA label post-approval, or do you think it's more likely to be limited to brain mets from a smaller list of indications?
The first and only approval at the beginning will be brain metastasis. This is where we discuss with FDA, and this is potentially be so-called the label and the indication of the products if it will be approved by FDA. What we can do is, after you have the first approval and you launch in the market, you do what is called life cycle management. So you do additional trial to expand the indication. But for now, trial, design, analysis, and market potential has been all based on the brain mets only. Well, I say only, but I just want to remind everybody that we are talking about around 300,000 new patients per year. So brain mets is huge. It's bigger than prostate cancer. It's bigger than lung cancer or breast cancer. So it's already an extremely broad indication.
Thank you. The next question is, thanks, Riccardo, very clear presentation. What is your comment about existing competition in brain mets PET area?
There is one company called Bracco Imaging that is performing late-stage clinical development in brain metastasis. So technically, there are only 2 companies or 2 products that are expected to be potentially approved. If we do a similarity with prostate cancer, where we already have 3 imaging and probably soon we will have 4 or 5, this is considered limited competition. But there is another element that is very important. There is a peculiarity of the US reimbursement system that is called pass-through designation. This designation is a situation where products that receive this pass-through designation has more favorable reimbursement in the US hospital. And our current knowledge is that Pivalate only is the product that has the potential to receive this pass-through designation, while the potential competitor from Bracco cannot get it. And the reason is because this product has been already approved in the past in prostate cancer, so you cannot get 2 times pass-through designation, but only once. So we consider this a competitive advantage from Pivalate, independently from the clinical results that of course need to be shown positive from both assets, but from access and reimbursement, we believe we are in a better situation.
Thank you. The next question is, can you discuss where you are expecting RAD204 to fit in the treatment of non-small cell lung cancer in the context of PD-1, PD-L1 checkpoint inhibitors? If patients failed PD-1, PD-L1, is there a concern that expression levels of PD-L1 will be too low?
Yeah, well, completely different topic. We are moving to therapeutic, and we are moving to the phase 1 dose escalating trial that we plan to perform in Australia very soon in patients with non-small cell lung cancer. So as you know, those patients has a very important first-line therapy that are called checkpoint inhibitor. And it is standard of care. It's really a big innovation and works very well in metastatic first-line patient. But unfortunately, not in everybody. So only 30% of those patients tend to respond to checkpoint inhibitor. The other are not. So what is our approach to the market? We would like to do a phase 1 dose escalating trial in patients that are refractory to checkpoint inhibitor. And this will be to test, first of all, the dose and the safety of the products. Then, after we complete the phase 1, when we move to phase 2, our idea here is to either do a standalone therapeutic clinical trial with RAD204 alone, or to combine with a checkpoint inhibitor. Why combination therapy? Because there is evidence in literature of a synergistic effect between immuno-oncology or checkpoint inhibitor and external radiation. So we believe that the synergy will be even stronger with a systemic radiopharmaceutical like RAD204. Regarding the level of expression of PD-L1, in our phase 2, so we are already jumping one stage ahead, the plan is to include patients with very different level of PD-L1 expression, going from very low to high. And the reason is because there is some scientific evidence that the current technology, immunohistochemistry, to detect PD-L1 level is not very efficient. So we don't want to limit ourselves, and we want to go to a broad patient population.
Thanks, Riccardo. The next question is, RAD201 had positive HER2 phase 1 data last year. Will this be eventually progressed to phase 2?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Well, in this case, we know that RAD201, so the imaging agent for HER2, reported positive phase 1. But in line of being sure that we allocate resources properly and we have clear priorities, we decided instead of doing the phase 2 of the RAD201 in HER2, to go straight to the phase 1 of the therapeutic that is called RAD202. So for the time being, we pause the development of RAD201 as an imaging agent, because we believe that is a higher priority to do RAD202 therapeutic. We will go back and we will keep working on it, but we don't want to, have too many programs ongoing. And so we selected our strategic priorities in what should be done now and what can be done maybe next year. So it's about resource allocation and focus. But thank you for the question.
Thanks, Riccardo. The final question I have is, dear Riccardo, are we still receiving calls from Big Pharma? Any interest in our current assets, potential for collaboration or out-license?
Well, it's difficult to answer because I cannot really answer without breaking confidentiality. But let me be politically correct here. Radiopharmaceutical are really considered a hot space at the moment. I believe that at the moment, Novartis and AstraZeneca are the two large pharma that are in the space. Personally, I believe that all the other big pharma are seriously considered to enter the space, and it's more a question of when they will decide to enter, not a question of if. So we do receive calls, but I cannot say more than that. But we are very pleased with the attention that we receive, with the invites that we receive, in particular in the last 6 months. And we believe that our visibility will further increase when we have our 4 priorities in the clinics. And this, hopefully, if execution will continue to be positive as has been until now, will happen really in the next few months, so before the end of the year. So positive area to be, high growth segment, increasing attention from big companies.
Thanks, Riccardo. On that note, that does conclude today's session. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to contact the team using the details on each of the ASX announcements. But otherwise, thanks to everyone for joining, and we'll look forward to bringing you more updates soon.
Thank you very much, Matt, and thank you everybody for the engaging session and all the questions, and also for taking the time to join the webinar. Keep you posted with all the news as soon as we can. Thank you very much.